here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I want to share with you my pork-free Italian sausage recipe. Through the years, I've created a few different recipes that we can use in replacement for things that would typically be made with pork, such as pepperoni, breakfast sausages, and more. I do have a few videos out. I have 2 on breakfast sausages that I did years ago, and then a more recent one I did on pepperoni, and those 3 can be found in the playlist I have since started on pork-free recipes, and this one is going to go in that same playlist as well. So there's a lot of similarities to this recipe as the pepperoni one, with a few differences in the herbs and spices used and the preparation. The pepperoni is definitely going to take longer because you got to basically kind of dry it, but you don't have to do that with your sausage. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you the basic recipe. I'm actually going to recycle a lot of the photos from the pepperoni recipe because there's so many similarities, but I'll be adding a couple photos and clips that will be different and unique to the sausage itself. For this particular batch, I did a 50-50 blend of ground beef with ground turkey. Now you can do this with just a wild meat like elk or venison, or you can combine them with ground turkey or chicken if you want. I'm finding that I do like the combination when I'm thinking of sausages of any kind or pepperoni. They just seem to add the right kind of blend, but again, you can use just a single meat if you want, whatever sounds best to you. And the ingredients I'm reading off is for 1 pound. Now, because I'm using a pound of each when I do this, half of that meat mixture goes into making breakfast sausages, so I put it in a separate bowl and use different herbs, some different herbs and spices. The other half went in a separate bowl to make the Italian sausage. So to that I add a tablespoon of fennel seed. Now I use whole fennel seed, but you can use ground if you prefer. A tablespoon of granulated garlic, a tablespoon of granulated onion, a tablespoon of red pepper flakes. That's going to be up to you. Maybe you're not going to want it quite so spicy, so you may want to leave that out or use much less, like maybe just a teaspoon, or even replace the red pepper with black pepper if you think you prefer that. 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then if you're using strictly wild meat like elk or venison, then I recommend you add a tablespoon of olive oil to that, because it's going to need a little bit of fat in there to prevent it from being too dry when you go to use it. Now, if you plan on shaping that like into patties or any kind of shape you want, if you're going to do that, I recommend you then add an egg to help hold it together, and or about 1/8 to 1/4 cup of some kind of flour that will help bind everything together. Now, I did go ahead and do that to the full mixture since I was, before I even divided it in half, and didn't use a whole lot of flour, but did add a little bit. Now, some options for how you might want to use it. You can either just go ahead and brown it like you would just browning ground beef, or, you know, as is with all the herbs and spices in there. In that case, you wouldn't really need to add the egg or the flour if you're going to do that. Or like what I like to do is just kind of have it in little pieces. And that would be something I would use on my homemade pizza. Or the reason I made this was for putting in my Italian sausage soup, which I love. And I do have a recipe to that, which I'll link to down below. Just keep in mind that when I did that particular recipe video, I did make that with a pork Italian sausage, which now, of course, we have gone back to no longer consuming pork. So creating my own Italian sausage was a benefit, and honestly, I like it so much better. The blend of the turkey and the ground beef or elk or venison and all these spices just is so good. And this Italian sausage soup that I made yesterday turned out amazing. It was one of my best ones. So you can find the link to that recipe down below, and then you can, instead of using whatever store-bought Italian sausage, just make your own however you want. Now, some other things, if you want to make a bunch and you want to put it up for later and you like the idea of having it in the little pieces, what you could do then is roll them, maybe coat them in a little bit of flour and then freeze them, or freeze them on a cookie sheet, and once they're frozen, then take all those and just toss them in whatever kind of freezer bag you're going to use. I tend to prefer the silicone, which is what I do with the breakfast sausages. I will coat those in flour, and then I'll kind of put like 4 in each of the smaller, like quart-sized silicone bags that I have, as you can see in this image here. And then usually for Patrick, I'll cook up 2 at a time. So I'll pull out a bag, I'll thaw that out, make a breakfast for him, cooking up 2 of those, and then the next time use the last 2, which will be within the next day or 2, so I can use them up right away. That way, I don't have to use it all up at once, and I can make up a bigger batch at a time. But in this case, because I was going to use that sausage right away and I was making a big pot of soup, is that I just take, it's depending on how sticky it might be, you might want to use a spoon to kind of break it up into smaller pieces, and then you're going to get your soup really hot. I actually did this before I added the pasta, and so I got it boiling with all the seasonings and all that in there in the soup, and then while it was boiling, I then started tossing the little pieces in, 1 piece at a time. You know, have them all ready to go on a plate or something, and then just start tossing them in there while it's boiling. That way the outer part will cook really quickly and they'll be less likely to adhere together. And I didn't try to make them into perfect little balls, so you can do that if you want. I just put in chunks, basically. And then I put in the pasta and then just let everything cook together. And then that sausage is going to get cooked all the way through. Plus the flavoring from that will get into the soup as well. And it turns out excellent. Now, I've yet to try this on homemade pizza, though I plan to do that soon. And I'm not sure if the best method would be, I'm thinking for that, I would probably want to cook the sausage a little bit in a pan first, and then put it on top of my pizza just to make sure it gets fully cooked. But I'm also thinking maybe even just using it, like cooking it up like a ground, any kind of other ground meat, so they're in smaller, looser pieces, and then just sprinkling it around. I don't know. It's just going to depend on the mood. And if you like bigger pieces, you might want to go with the bigger piece idea, and then just kind of cook them like little tiny meatballs in a pan. You know, getting them well browned all the way around before you put them on your pizza and then bake your pizza. You could even try baking them on a cookie sheet if you want. And then that actually might even be another idea, is baking them and then freezing them. And then that way you can just take out what you need and toss onto your pizza or into your soup that way. So it's all going to be a matter of choice, but it is actually super duper easy to do. And you can just kind of play with the different ratios of herbs and spices, and even the mixes of meats that you want to use, to come up with something that totally suits you and your family. I, for one, am very happy with this recipe that I've used. So again, if you would like to see my other recipes, just go to the playlist link I'll be putting in the description box down below. And if you ever have any other thoughts or ideas you'd like to share, put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.